Okay, so you have your cast of characters ready for your NaNoWriMo novel, and you're all excited about your book idea, right? But maybe you've started doing research about story structure and you're getting a little confused. Save the cat, hero's journey, 3-act, 4-act, it's all very confusing. And my not so popular opinion, I don't think you need to worry about story structure right now. Today, let me tell you what I do think you need and how to do that. And make sure you stay to the end because I have an excellent resource to make this NaNoWriMo the best NaNoWriMo. Hi, I'm Jennifer Gregson, a book coach who uses tarot to help writers start and finish their novels, create amazing characters, and get past writer's block, all with a smile on their face. Now, before I get a lot of hate in the comments, let me explain. I think structure is fine overall, but I feel like if you try to shoehorn your book into a specific structure now, you're going to box yourself in and not have room to grow or explore. I feel like if you try to put your book into 12 beats or 3 acts or 4 acts without even knowing what your story's about, you're going to run into some problems. And I think you're going to be wasting your time. I personally don't look at structure until I get to the second draft. When I know what my story is about, when I know what my characters are trying to tell me, and then I can decide how I want my story to flow within one of the structures. So, what do you need? I'm glad you asked. Basics. This is really, really simple. I think you need 3 things. I think you need to know your beginning, your middle, and your end. I'm going to be using the same tarot deck I did last week, the Modern Witch Tarot deck, and I'm going to be creating my beginning, my middle, and my end for my NaNoWriMo project. Now, if you watched last week's video, I created my main character, Ruby. I'm going to have those cards sort of close at hand just in case I need to reference something. But usually I just like to pull out the character cards unless I've used like half the deck so that they don't get looped back in and I can reference them. That's totally up to you, and that is a choice that you get to make. So just a little backstory, since I did create Ruby last week. She is a high school senior. She is sort of tomboyish. She loves to swim, very athletic. Her parents are going through a really messy divorce, and she goes in search of answers. She finds out that she has this sort of fire magic power, and she meets other teenage girls that also have these sort of elemental powers. One of them is going to help guide her on the journey through her parents' messy divorce and help her figure out sort of what her next steps, what her life is going to look like after high school. Okay, so Ruby is my main POV or point of view character, and I'm going to do the beginning, the middle, and the end from her particular storyline. I'm not going to worry about subplots right now. Basics. Ready? I'm using the same deck I used last week. I'm going to shuffle and cut in half and then pull 3 cards. Beginning, middle, and end. I'm going to show you the cards and then we're going to talk about individually. So this is beginning, middle, and end. Okay, so let's do beginning. Well, this is pretty easy. She is really, really heartbroken. She is very, very upset about her parents and their relationship breaking up. It would be really, really interesting, I think, as a little parallel, if she also just recently broke up with someone. So I'm thinking about adding that in. That's sort of the 3 arrows. She's dealing with not only her heartbreak, but her mom and her dad's heartbreak. Let's say she's very equally attached to both. She always thought they were sort of the 3 amigos, right? She's an only child. I think that would make it really, really more difficult to have your parents go through this situation if you have nobody else in your family situation to talk to. And so she doesn't even have her boyfriend or girlfriend. I haven't decided yet which way that's going to go. But let's say she has absolutely no one right now. She is all alone and she's dealing with heartbreak, both hers, her mom, and her dad. And that's really where I'm going to start with my beginning. Then for the middle, I pulled this really interesting Queen of Pentacles card. Just going to look at it for a minute. Sometimes things don't come right away. Like that one was pretty immediate. And this is a great place to stop and sort of talk about how I do these things. So when I use tarot cards for these things, I look at both the forefront, the background, and then tiny, tiny details. I take into account things like color, things like action. She's just sitting there holding this pentacle. That is an action in of itself. She's not really active, and maybe that's a really good thing to think about for the middle of my story. Sometimes I'll look at the middle and then go to the end and then come back, which I'm kind of feeling like I might need to do this time, and that's totally okay. So let's just put a pause on this. But if you think of anything for this card, write it down in the comments below. So let's go to the ending really fast. I love this. It's sort of an interesting mirror to the beginning. We have the 3 and the 3, but this time there's more of a celebrational vibe. And I feel like maybe Ruby has found her people outside of her family. I'm not saying that Ruby's going to give up her family, but her family is going to be very fractured. It's going to be quote unquote broken for her. She is not going to have that dynamic trio that she's had in the past. She's going to have dad's house and mom's house, and she's going to have to navigate that. So I think this is an excellent opportunity for Ruby to find that sort of friend group. And I've already mentioned that she's going to meet women, other teenagers with other elemental powers. And maybe this, the ending, is a way for them to celebrate that. Maybe Ruby is really scared of that power. Last week when I pulled the tarot cards for character creation, for what she thought about her spirituality and sort of this relationship to magic, I got this card and I sort of felt like there was a sort of a push and a pull, and she wasn't sure which way to go. She was very unsure if she wanted to take this path. And maybe this card is saying that at the end of the story, she's completely okay with her power. She's completely okay with relying on these other women to sort of make magic, to make witchcraft, to make things happen for the collective group and for herself. And I think that's pretty amazing. And I just love the contrast of the 3 and the 3. Personally, I love to do that with books, so it's fun that that came up for me. I love to mirror my ending with the beginning. And that doesn't always usually happen until second or third draft. So it's kind of fun that it came up to remind me. That is one of the things that I personally as a writer like to do. Now let's go back to that middle card. What I think is really interesting, even if you don't know anything about the tarot, is that we have 3 different elements. We have swords, we have cups, and we have the pentacles. So really, really quickly, the swords are all about the air element, that's sort of in your head, overthinking kind of element. The cups are all about the emotions, and the pentacles are all about that grounding earth energy. And I'm really getting that with this card. There's this sort of flowers, there's a lot of greenery at the bottom, there's this very fertile kind of feel to this card. And I feel like somehow Ruby has to figure out how to get grounded in reality. And I think for her, it's going to be sort of learning how to control her fire energy. Now, I know this is not a fiery card, and I didn't get any wands at all, which is the fire element card, but I'm going to rely on the card I chose last week for Ruby, which is a wands card, and sort of loop that into this sort of deck, this spread. And it's interesting because now I have all 4 elements, and my book is going to be dealing with all 4 elements. So love it. But for her, I feel like this is all about controlling that energy. Maybe when she gets angry, it sort of shoots out of nowhere. Maybe she hurts somebody, not like kill them, but maybe she damages somebody. Maybe she damages one of her parents when doing the spell work. So I think this is a card that reminds me that she needs to figure out how to control that inner power, how to control that fire energy so that she doesn't hurt anybody, so she doesn't hurt herself, so she can do what needs to be done for both her parents, for herself, for that collective group that she's sort of involved in. And that's really all I need right now. That is what I do. Beginning, middle, and end. Now, let's say you have that and you have questions. You can pull more cards. I like to say there's no right way, there's only your way when it comes to tarot and writing. If you see something different, like let's say you picked up on that rabbit for some odd reason, and maybe you immediately thought of like Alice in Wonderland, right? And somehow Alice in Wonderland is sort of informing your middle. That's perfect. That doesn't have to be my way. What I'm saying is look at the forefront of the card, the background of the card, the little details. Like there's kind of this dark element in the back, and then the bright sun I feel is a sort of an interesting contrast, light and dark, which I could totally play up in my book. I think there are both shadow and light qualities to every element, and wouldn't that be interesting to explore? I would write that down. If the roses picked up something for you, that's cool too. The roses aren't really speaking to me in this moment. The next book I write, if I use this same deck and I pick this card, I might totally pick up on the roses, but I'm not picking up on that. I'm picking up on sort of that element. And for me, that's important for my story. What's important to your story? So now that I have the beginning, the middle, and the end sort of fleshed out, and I might even go back and write 2 to 3 sentences for each bullet point, in 2 weeks when I talk about outlining, I'm going to show you how to flesh that out into a workable outline that's easy breezy, gives you lots of room to grow and play and explore. So if you are doing NaNoWriMo this year and you are enjoying these videos, then please join my free accountability group. The link is in the description box below. You get worksheets, workbooks, tarot spreads, things to try, writing exercises, weekly check-ins, and in November, I'm going to be doing Zoom writing sessions so that you and I can both get our word counts up. I would love to know, what was your beginning and middle end cards? What deck are you using? Any little hints and tips and things that you got today from using your cards, I would love to know. And I will be doing weekly Preptober and NaNoWriMo videos in October and November, so please hit that subscribe button and join along. I hope you have a beautiful writing day.